Hello everybody, my name is Clarissa and I'm a nurse educator here at DHR Health. One of the topics that I wanted to talk about was effective communication. Now, you have to understand that most times as nurses, we can be the best thing that has happened to a patient in the worst day of their life. So it's so important that we are effectively communicating what the patient needs, as well making sure that they get the care that they need. We provide the patient with as much compassion and empathy, to provide them a good journey to their recovery. We have to just be more than just clinical knowledge. We also have to have interpersonal communication and skills. Communication is a vital element in nursing in all areas, in all activities, and its interventions such as prevention and treatment, rehabilitation, therapy, education, and to promote their health. Understanding the immediate needs of a patient when they are sick is very important because we need to make sure we address those needs as we see fit, in the sense that they came in for an emergency. We have to acknowledge what is a concern. Most times when people come to the hospital, this is the last place that they want to be. So being an active listener and listening to what the patient needs will help build that rapport. And rapport means that when you begin to trust someone, that you start to explain things in confidentiality. Active listening is a huge part of communication. You can't help people or assure that they understand what you are saying until you are listening. You see, if something falls behind me, I'm hearing something fall, but it isn't until I turn around that I look to see what the object is, that I'm listening objectively to what is actually happening. Also, part of communication is understanding the emotional state of the patient. We want to provide not just a physical well-being, but an emotional well-being for the patient. We have to be able to provide that deeper level of understanding. Also understanding the social determinants of health. For example, things that don't have to do with the patient's illness or trauma or concern at the time, but also what are other derivatives that are contributing to the patient's health. Maybe their financial status, maybe the fact that they don't have insurance. We're here to take care of our patient, and recovery is so important for us. We also have to be effective in communicating how to track the patient's care. Are they doing better? Are we being effective? Right? We always want to assess our patient. We want to implement any treatments that we need to, and then we need to evaluate if what we did was actually benefiting the patient, and are they getting better? So what we are doing in response to that, is it working? We also want to make sure that we identify special needs, and that could be anything between a language barrier. If the patient is Spanish speaking, primary, which is here in the Valley, it's predominant. Everybody's primary language is usually Spanish, and then they understand English, but again, their primary language is Spanish. So we want to make sure that they know everything in their native tongue. They could also be someone that speaks Mandarin. We want to make sure that they're able to communicate their concerns in that aspect. So communication is very effective when they're able to relay their needs and their wants concerning their care. And that is important because then they become an integrated part of the continuation of recovery in that aspect. We also want to make sure that communicating is also advocating for our patient. What do we see fit that is going to benefit the patient, that's going to provide a positive response? So in other aspects, communication, we also have to understand our body language, how we stand. When you are here and you're concerned about a patient, you want to have that open communication. So body language is another portion of communication that we have to relay. We have to also exercise patience, right? Sometimes we understand that you're going through a really bad situation and your emotions get the best of you. we know that you're not trying to take a sharp edge at us. It's just the situation is very emotional and very stressful, so we have to be very patient. Focus on the feelings and the facts so that we are able to communicate and relay a better understanding of care. And you want to show proper respect. When you're showing respect on someone who is probably not at the best state and they're very angry, you still want to say something like, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Please allow me the opportunity to make this right. What you can do now. You don't want to have a lingering conversation about what can't be changed. So you acknowledge what can be changed, what you can do better, and then move from there. Let's just move forward from this situation. Building rapport is one of the biggest things because the patient sometimes will feel intimidated when they're hearing bigger words that they probably don't understand, but they're too not embarrassed, but they just don't want to be asking for too many explanations. They just want the process to go a little bit faster. But when you build a rapport with the patient is able to communicate just why are they hesitating or what their concerns are. And that helps us communicate to the physicians on having an itemized care plan for that patient. We also want to recognize sensory challenges. We want to make sure that we provide the care and ensure the best comfort that we can for our patient. We also, in that sense, want to use plain language. Be simple and clear. What needs to happen? When this happens, then this will happen. If this doesn't happen, then this won't happen. A lot of the communication, sometimes when people are faced with a difficult decision to make, often we try to help patient or patient family members avoid that feeling of guilt. People don't want to be blamed for someone's end of life, choosing whether they should be disconnected or not disconnected. That's a very hard choice. And so as nurses, we have to be able to communicate what is the risk of doing something versus the risk of doing nothing, and what is going to be at the most benefit. And always showing empathy is one of the biggest things that I can contribute to communication. It's like when something is important to you, it may not be important to your parents. What's important to your parents may not be important to you. But because you love your parents, what's important to them should be important to you. And because it's important to you, it should then be important to your parents. So that is how I think of it. You also want to think about how do they feel? Because we can be in a difficult situation where they say, you don't know how I feel, or you don't understand. You're absolutely right. I don't know how you feel, but I can see how it makes you feel. And that makes a whole lot of difference. So it's so important in communication that we're actually understanding. And one of the biggest things on understanding is to read back what you think you understood. Always building on what someone knows before you engage in further education has a more promising result. So make sure that when you're communicating with someone that you are actively listening to them. I live by Maya Angelou. People forget what you say, and people will forget what you do, but people will never forget how you make them feel. And that is why you have the friends that you have, because they make you feel good. That is why you can't stand to talk to certain people who have made you sad, because they made you feel sad. And we always want to make sure that we have effective communication so that we can make our patients feel that empathy that we're trying to bring across. So I hope that this has helped you in your communication. And it's not just for nursing, it's in every field of aspect and anything that you do from here on out. So work on your communication, really understand what needs to happen, and being empathetic and valuing what people feel is always very important. Thank you. I hope you have a great day.